Hi, welcome to Fun and Friends. I'm Avalon.
I'm Sabrina.
I'm Jasmine.
And welcome to the channel.
Welcome.
We are...
I raised my hand. I don't like that behind you, so.
We're currently reading School of Good and Evil, Book 2. Thank you for hanging in with us, as this is a long and tedious process because we all are busy adults, as
we've explained.
Yes.
All right, recap of chapter number 3. So in our last chapter, we had the elders come and say, we're going to make Sophie safe. And Agatha promised her dad, Sophie's dad, Stefan, that she would, keep Sophie safe. She promised. And, but she was told that I won't ask. Actually, I will. Okay, after the recap, I'm finding out. So once she was back at her house because she was told that Sophie has to be rescued alone to go to a safe place. Her mom, after the time that Sophie was to be taken from with the elders, her mom kind of basically admits that she knew that the elders make decisions, and I guess they. When children used to go missing, they used to always blame the women. So they explained that, women were blamed for that as witches, and they would be killed at the stake if they did not get married and have kids. So that's dark.
We must keep reproducing so we can have more kids to sacrifice to the book
maybe
gods.
Maybe that's the real reason, right?
To the book gods.
So her mom basically said, Agatha remembered that Stefan had suffered worst of all. So we still haven't fully heard the story of Stefan regarding Sophie's mom and the history there. But we did just learn that, Agatha's dad actually did not die the way she was told he died. And that sounds like he actually died fighting to not have her mom killed for refusing to marry.
Yeah.
So, there was that. And Sophie got kidnapped by the elders, and Agatha at this point thinks that she got killed by them or given to the people who want Sophie.
The townspeople who want to kill her.
Sophie is now on the run trying to go rescue Sophie.
Yep.
Agatha's on the run.
Agatha.
Bear with
Sophie is rescuing Sophie, totally.
This chapter is kind of a long chapter, so...
Settling with some tea and
or
if you're on your car ride, just kind of don't zone out.
Pay attention when you're driving.
4. Oh wait, what was the thing you did?
No, later.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine. Chapter 4. Red Hood's Ride. Agatha heard the men's shouts recede with
the wolf. Red Riding Hood. Took her. Took Sophie.
Remember her dream in the first chapter? Yes. Chapter 3 was also about a wolf, but her dream made it seem like she was the wolf. She's the beast, because I thought the 2 boys in that was actually her brothers, like the 2 new brothers, and she was the evil villain, squeezing them.
Mm-hmm.
So we shall see.
I think the wolf.
Maybe it's another one of those what's it called? Nemesis dreams.
Oh,
you guys are now my nemesises. Agatha heard the men's shouts recede with the light of their torches. Kneeling against the wet, crumbly tree trunk in the darkness, she folded her shivering arms into her black dress. A few distant hoots and skitters muffled to the silence. Agatha didn't move, her spine throbbing where the rock hit her. All this time, she had focused on rescuing her best friend and going back. Back to what? Murderous elders? More assassin attacks? A village that wanted Sophie gone? She thought of innocent women burnt publicly in a square not so long ago, and her stomach turned over. How can we ever go home? Their future in Galveston was just as dark as the woods around her now. To go home, she couldn't just rescue Sophie. She had to defeat the assassins, whoever they are, and stop their attacks once and for all. But she had no idea how to even begin looking for her friend.
How do you save a miracle? That's what that makes me feel like Encanto.
I need a hero. For hundreds of years, the villagers had stormed into the forest seeking its lost children, only to come out the other side, right where they started. Like all the missing children, she and Sophie had seen what lay beyond the forest, a dangerous world of good and evil that had no end. They had been the lucky ones to return, sealing the gates between reality and fantasy forever, or so she thought. One wish, and its gates had reopened. Wherever Sophie was, she was in terrible danger. Rising from a crouch, Agatha stepped into the endless woods, clumps crunching on dead leaves. Inching forward, she probed blindly with her hands, feeling splintered bark, cobweb branches. She smacked into a tree, and a shadow flung out, spewed something wet on her face, and vanished with a hiss. In response came a chorus of grunts and groans all through the woods, like a sleeping enemy called to arms. Dazed, Agatha scraped the goo off her face and pulled Radley's dagger from her pocket. Scuffling sounds came from beneath her feet. Through dead leaves, she saw pupils open and shut in the undergrowth, yellow and green, glinting in one place, reappearing in another. Agatha shrank against a tree, trying not to blink. One by one, her eyes adjusted just in time to see 8 slinky shadows unfurl from the ground in a circle around her like a coiling trail of smoke. Snakes. Only they were thicker than snakes, black as ash, with flattened heads and needle-sharp barbs through every scale. They rose higher around Agatha, angling towards her with long overlapping hisses, opening their full-fanged jaws wide, and all at once they spat. You know what that reminds me of? The cobra in the Indiana Jones ride.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Snakes.
I hate snakes. Gobs of mucus pinned Agatha to the tree, and she dropped the dagger.
That just is grossly slimy, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I stepped on a snail last night, so I just kind of like refelt that squish, but like
I was picturing the like in those horror films where like the alien or the dinosaur is like over them and the goop just like drips down. It looks like boogers. Yeah, that's kind of where I was at with that one. She tied a wrench free with the sour film smacked into her mouth. Her eyes, so all she could see was a ring of blurry, spiny silhouettes. You know what else it kind of reminds me of? Sorry, I just keep like being distracted. The dinosaur, the dinosaur that spits at people.
It's from Jurassic Park. Yeah, that one.
Yep.
And it got that guy with the glasses.
Yeah.
Had like the shaving cream with all
that
the
dinosaur is actually, so that's the only time you ever saw that in the first trilogy.
Yeah.
And they're bringing it back in the last movie in June for Jurassic World.
Nice. There's just something.
They all aimed at different parts of her. If only that's...
If you don't get our jokes, please go watch Jurassic Park. It's an amazing trilogy, and Jurassic World's great too.
Yes.
They all aimed at different parts of her body, then curled their trunks around the barbs, piercing into her skin. Flailing silently, Agatha saw one last, bigger than the rest, lower from a branch and loop its cold black tail around her neck. As its barbs pricked her throat, she gasped for more breath, but the monster's head was slithering up to her face now. It pressed its fat nose against the film over her cheeks, glaring at her through thin, acid-green pupils, and started to squeeze. Agatha choked and closed her eyes. She felt no hurt, only her soul searching for a memory. She was sitting on a lake shore, head on somebody's shoulder. Arm in arm, they held each other. Sun drenched their skins, breath quietly matched. Agatha listened to the silence of happiness, ever after in a single moment. Then sharp, stabbing pain folded her body, and she knew the end had come. Gripping the arm beside her, Agatha gazed into the lake's reflection, needing to see her happy ending's face one last time. It wasn't Sophie's. Light speared the darkness. The snakes recoiled with screams and scuttled back under dead leaves. Agatha opened her eyes. Dazed, she looked around for the source of light. Through the veil of goo, she saw it was her fingertip, burning gold for the first time since the wedding. She was at once relieved and sickened, both times it had happened, thinking of him. Magic follows emotion, Yerba had warned. She lost control of both. This time, however, the finger didn't dim. Agatha held it up, confused. She focused on the need to get off the tree, and suddenly the glow pulsed brighter, as if waiting for instructions. Agatha's heart pumped faster. She crossed into the fairy tale world. Her magic was back. But bursting with pain and stuck to a tree, Agatha was hardly in the shape to remember the spells from school, but with her breath settled, she managed to a basic melt jinx, and mucus rinsed away with the blood, leaving her black dress sticky and soaked. Still, she was alive somehow, and with a wretched groan, Agatha picked up Bradley's dagger and pried off the soggy bark. Finger aglow, she swept it like a torch through knotted trees, searching for a path like Yerba had taught them. Like all the group leaders at the School of Good and Evil, the old gnome had used the Blue Forest, a lush, tranquil training ground meant to mimic the endless woods and prepare students for what they face. Agatha squeezed between two rotted tree trunks, trying to ignore the burning cuts all over her body. I have a prediction. You know how they said after the School of Good and Evil, after you've graduated, you end up in your fairy tale? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What if they're now in their fairy tale and this all is taking place in the real world?
Well, I think their fairy tale already started in the first book. I just don't think that was their actual end.
That's what I'm saying. Like, what if they're still going? Because technically, neither of them really found a happy ever after.
Correct.
Now the Blue Forest seemed like the schoolmaster's cruel joke. Agatha retched between more webbed trees towards the gap in the thicket, hoping it'd be a path. She didn't dare call Sophie's name and signal the assassins she was on their trail. With each step, Agatha felt a glowing sense of doom. She'd been in the Endless Woods twice before, but this time was different. There was no school to save her. There was no Tedros. Her fingertip pulsed brighter. Tedros of Camelot. Is that how you feel when you think about Ryan? Oh, Ryan.
No.
You feel that way when you see Gary?
Yeah, sometimes.
Not like that gushing, like puppy love.
Ryan.
No, it's more Gary. Of a gratitude, like, okay, he's here. And I like that.
Like, it's calming.
Yeah.
It's like soothing.
Not
Yes.
This.
Tedros. Finally, she said his name to herself, here, alone in the woods. The last time she'd seen her prince was in the twilight of her and Sophie's kiss, a kiss that he thought would be his. As he watched her disappear into thin air, he reached for her, choking in a scream, wait. She had the choice to take his hand. She had the choice to stay as his princess. She felt as her body glowed to light, but trapped between worlds. But she chose Sophie, and Agatha was gone. She was so sure she'd made the right choice. It was the only ending she ever wanted. But the more she tried to forget him, the more the prince came, in dreams, day and night, his pained blue eyes, his body lunging, his big, strong hand reaching for hers. Until one day, she reached back. Just find Sophie, she gritted, remembering her promise to Stefan. All she wanted was Sophie home and alive. Charming, maniacal, ludicrous Sophie. She never doubted her happy ending again. As she waddled through the mess of fallen branches towards the gap in the trees, Agatha held up her lit finger and saw it wasn't a path at all. It was a vast cesspool of mud, rusted red, stretching east and west as far as she could see. She picked up a rock and lobbed it into the pool. The splash wasn't shallow. Suddenly, Agatha noticed two shadows down the bank, probing at the red mud with dark hooves. A horned stag with a female deer. After a few more testing probes, the stag seemed satisfied, and both slid into the mud side by side, swimming towards the distant bank. Relieved, Agatha rolled up her dress to follow them. Something snatched the female deer, and Agatha stumbled back in shock. 3 long, spindly, white crocodile snouts rose from the mud, thin and rectangular, with enormous round nostrils and black shark teeth, tearing into the thrashing female. As they pulled her under, ignoring the bigger male completely as he flailed, whispering to the far shore, Agatha didn't try to cross. Tears in her eyes, she staggered back the way she came, sweeping a finger glow across the maze of trees. Where was her friend? What had they done with her? Trying to stifle sobs, she limped towards the forest edge, seeing nothing but the shadows of skeletal branches, slivers of dark slivers of dark clouds, a glow of pink. She stopped her finger on it, Pulsing like a beacon to bad behavior, everyone else would have mistaken it for an animal's eye, but Agatha knew. Only one animal on Earth made it pink like that. She tore through the trees, fighting her pain, following the pink glow, fading weaker in the distance. As she neared, she began to see smears of blood on trees, the trail of a wounded beast. She plowed through the broken branches.
Oh, it's her pink fox. From the first book, Sophie's like pink fox.
Sophie didn't have a pink fox. She had a cupid.
No. She transformed into a pink fox. Remember, and Ted Rose was the blue fox?
Oh.
Yeah.
She plowed through the broken branches and ripped away vines, hair snarling needles, until she caught wisps of lavender perfume. Agatha jumped over a log, heart bursting from her chest, and charged into the small glade. Sophie! Sophie didn't respond. Facing away, she was slumped on her knees behind a far tree, arms over her head. The second finger on her right hand pulsed her signature pink glow a few times and dulled to pale. Sophie? Agatha said. Her own gold fingertip went cold. Sophie still didn't move. Agatha approached the tree, dread rising. She could hear her friend's shallow breaths, and slowly Agatha reached out and touched the bare shoulder through Sophie's torn dress. There was blood on it. Agatha spun her around. Sophie's hands were lashed to a branch with braided horse reins. There was a shallow knife pricks in each of her palms, from which the elders had taken blood and smeared a scarlet message on Sophie's chest. Take me. Yikes. On her chest.
Oh, yeah.
Frantic, Agatha cut Sophie down with her knife, trying in vain to think of a spell to wash away the blood. She scrubbed her friend's skin with shaking palms. I'm sorry, she choked, severing the last rein. I'll get us home, I promise. The instant she was free, Sophie covered Agatha's mouth with ice-cold hands. Agatha followed her wide, bloodshot eyes. There was something on the trees ahead, flapping milky white in the darkness. Agatha held up her glowing finger. Parchment scrolls crackled like the wind, like dead leaves. Tacked to trunks, each one was the same. Wanted, witch, dead or alive, by the order of the schoolmaster, treasure, reward. Here is the picture, if you can see that. The face on the poster was Sophie's. That's impossible, Agatha cried. She froze. Between trees, she caught glints of red. Something was coming. Agatha grabbed Sophie's wrist and dragged her behind the trunk, muffling Sophie's moans with her hand. Just sticking her whole head in their mouth. Agatha slowly peeked up. Through the tangled branches, she saw men in red leather hoods, eye holes cut away. They carried fire-tipped arrows which lit up their sleeves, black leather uniforms, and bare muscular arms. They tried to count how many there were, 10, 15, 20, 25, until she counted one whose violet eyes glared right at her. Grinning, he raised his bow. Down! Agatha yelped. The first arrow singed Sophie's neck as both girls dove into the dirt. Neither spoke as they floundered through the snarls of black briars, dozens of flaming arrows barely missing them, and igniting trees left and right. Hand in hand, the girls fled deeper into the woods, looking for somewhere to hide, red hoods gaining until they came to a break in the trees, and finally glimpsed the forest path serene in the moonlight. Whizzing with relief, they ran for it and stopped short. The path forked into two. Both trails were thin and sooty, crooking away in opposite directions. Neither looked more hopeful than the other, but from reading storybooks, the girls knew which only one was correct. Which way? Sophie rasped. Agatha could see how weak and shaken her friend was. She had to get her to safety. Hearing the skimming arrows again, Agatha swung her head between the paths, burning trees growing nearer and nearer. Aggie, which way? Sophie pressed. Agatha's eyes darted uselessly back and forth, waiting for a sign. Sophie gasped, Look! Agatha swiveled to the east path. A glowing blue butterfly flapped in darkness high above the trail. It beat its wings faster and nosed forward, as if urging them to follow. Come on, Sophie said, suddenly strong again, and surged forward. We're following a butterfly? Agatha retorted as she follow the butterflies, whee, la 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 la. Okay, did you ever watch Harry Potter Puppet Pals?
I didn't remember that one. I just remembered the, like, Harry Potter, Ron Weasley, that one.
Okay, that's the one that, like, everyone knows.
Yeah,
but
I'm like, I didn't watch the rest of them.
No, there's one where Ron's like, following a butterfly, and then Voldemort like kills him. Okay, anyway. It's instantly popped into my head as... Anyway. Don't worry, it's leading us out of here. How do you know? Hurry, we'll lose it. You don't know what I've been through, Agatha heaved, puffing behind. Let's not play who's had it worse, shall we? The butterfly sped up as if nearing its destination and veered around a bend, wings brightening to blinding blue. Sophie grabbed Agatha by the wrist, dragging her faster around the curve, into a dead end of fallen trees. The butterfly was gone. No, Agatha squeaked, but I thought it was a special butterfly. Sophie shook her head, eyes welling as if her friend couldn't understand. Then over Agatha's shoulder, she saw a torch-lit shadow inch across the trees, then two more. The Hoods had found their path. We had our happy ending, Sophie backed against the trunk. This is all my fault. No, Agatha said, looking down. It's mine. Sophie's heart clamped, as if the same feeling she had... It was the same feeling she had had alone in the church, thinking about how her friend had changed. A feeling that told her none of this last month was an accident. Agatha, why is this happening? Agatha watched the shadows grow closer around the bend. Her eyes stung with tears. Sophie, I made a mistake. Aggie, slow down. Agatha couldn't look at her. I opened it. I opened our fairy tale. I don't understand. A wish. Agatha stammered, reddening. I made a wish. Sophie shook her head. A wish? I didn't mean it. It happened so fast. A wish for what? Agatha took a deep breath. She looked into her friend's scared eyes. Sophie, I wished I was with... Tickets! A voice said. Both girls turned around to see an alarmingly thin caterpillar with a top hat, curled mustache, and a purple tuxedo poking out of the
We went from Red Riding Hood to all of a sudden to Alice in Wonderland. All right.
Tickets, please. Yeah. Thank you for calling the Flower Ground. No spitting, sneezing, singing, sniffling, swinging, swearing, slapping, sleeping, or urinating in the flower trains. Violations will result in the removal of your clothes. Tickets? Sophie and Agatha gaped at each other. Neither had the faintest idea how to call the Flower Ground. Look, mister, Agatha pressured, glancing back at the shadows nearing the dead-end turn. We need to ride right now, and we don't have... Leave it to me, Sophie whispered and twirled. Such a pleasure to see you again, conductor. Remember we met when you graciously escorted our class to the Garden of Good and Evil. And look at that lovely mustache. I just love a good mustache. No ticket, no ride. The caterpillar crabbed and withdrew. But they'll kill us, Agatha cried, seeing Red Hoods turn to view. Special circumstances can be presented in writing on Form Code 77 at the Flower Ground Registry Office, open in the alternate Mondays from 3 p.m. to 3:30 p.m.
For real, that's how it feels.
For half an hour every other Monday.
That's how it feels when you need to call something.
Yep. Agatha grabbed him from the tree. Let us in, or I will eat you. The caterpillar bleached in her grip. Nevers, he cried. Vines shot out and sucked Agatha and Sophie into the hollow as arrows set the tree ablaze. The two girls fell through the pit of swirling pastel colors until vines flung them over a snapping Venus flytrap into the tunnel of blinding hot mist. Shielding their eyes, the girls felt their vines cinch around their waists like straitjackets and hook onto something above them. Both peeked through their hands to see that they were dangling in midair from a luminescent green tree trunk stenciled Arborea line. The butterfly called the train somehow, Sophie yelled from her tight harness as the track propelled them ahead. See, the butterfly's trying to help us. Coming out of the mist, Agatha gaped at the Flower Ground for the first time, speechless. Before her was a spectacular underground transport system big as half of Galveston, made entirely of plants. Color-coded tree trunks crisscrossed like railroad tracks at the bottom cavern, whisking passengers dangling from vine straps to their respective destinations in the endless woods. The conductor perched in glass window compartments inside Abora's green line, grumpily called stops into a willow microphone as flower curtains flitted by. Maidenvale, Avalon Towers, hey. Runyon Lane, Jenny Mill. Whenever passengers heard their stop, they pulled hard on their vine strap. A strap fastened around their waist unfurled off the track and ferried them high. Oh man. Ferried them high to one of many windmill exits that turned them out of the flower ground and up onto the land. Agatha noticed the Green Line's trunk was jam-packed with women in twittering conversation. Some well-dressed and cheerful, others oddly had-like and unattractive for evers, while the red Rosalinda line, Rosalinda line, running perpendicular only to a few grum, scraggly-looking men. Under the two tree tracks, the yellow dahlia line buzzed with groups of beautiful and homely women, while a crisscrossing pink peony line had only. You know how I
They're
know
all
that?
flowers. That's why that was Delilah.
But you know how I know this one, right? That's from Cinder. That's the sister that like.
Oh, gotcha. I didn't finish reading it.
But remember, I told you she died.
I forgot because I didn't read it.
Well, you should because it's a good
line.
book. Had only 3 rumpled, dirty male dwarfs. Agatha didn't remember the caterpillar saying anything about men and women sitting apart, but then again, she couldn't remember half of the stupid rules. She was distracted by 2 parakeets.
Yep.
Trauma. Feathers, the color of the rainforest. Well, at least that's a little bit. Well, never mind. Nope, still trauma. Who fluttered.
Oh.
He died again. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, he died again. Buddy 2.0 died.
Oh.
Yeah.
No. So, as a pet sitter, worst thing happened. I had a pet die, which was her grandmother's bird, because her dad left the AC on, and I didn't know AC kills birds.
It got too cold.
Yeah, so I had to go buy Buddy 2.0 per her mother's wishes, so that Grandma still had a bird. And yeah, so he died.
How long ago was that?
That was a while ago, but
the replacement was like 5 years ago.
Yes, but the reason that it was is my grandma has some failing health issues and she has Alzheimer's. So we made the bird that replaced Buddy 1.0
look as much like the first one as I could. I went to like 6 stores.
Look alike, and she had none the wiser. She still thought it was the same bird for the longest time.
He just lived super long.
He did. He was a very long living bird, but he passed away like probably a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Peace, Buddy.
2.0.
Poor bird.
I was traumatized for a while.
But I mean, if I know
at least it hopefully passed away in her care, so she knows it passed away.
No, it passed away in my mom's care.
Crap. Is there going to be a Buddy 3.0?
I don't think so. I think she'd let Grandma know this time. But yeah. Hi, Buddy. He's
you have to look for a bird that has a similar level of gray, a similar level of black stripes, a similar level of blue, a similar amount of yellow on its head.
That was green. It was green and yellow.
Okay. But still, like, their head's yellow with age, so finding one that had more yellow and, like, matching wings, because I didn't realize how much their wings varied.
Yeah, gosh. that was an experience. But, yeah, that was a thing. And, yeah.
Rest in peace, Buddy. 2.0.
Yeah, but I don't know if I was my grandmother, I feel like because the first bird would do somersaults, like he would.
The thing she noticed was that he didn't put his head in the bell anymore, but I mean it was a totally different bird, so
yeah. But he also used to do somersaults, like he would stand on the side of grab onto the side of the cage and like flip himself like backwards.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and he obviously the second bird didn't do that. So honestly, I wonder if it just like broke its back from doing backflips. I don't know. But I felt so bad. Poor bird.
Poor birdie.
Yep.
We will wait to resume the book when she returns.
Chewy, I think, is asking to be invited over.
Hi, Chewy. Come here. Get your cute butt up here. Come here. Hi. It's a good thing that was empty.
Yep.
Hi, kid. Say hi to the group. We're doing a little celebrity shot. Chewie says hi. He's in his little green because, it was St. Patrick's Day this week.
Well, he had to
and
get...
you're even a ginger, so, you work for leprechauns.
Maybe that's how the leprechauns got in my classroom.
It was you. Did you let them in? You let them in. You so let them in. You're like, but they gave me scritches. I thought they were nice.
Yeah, we made some leprechaun traps, and the room got destroyed, as leprechauns do, and left the kids some gold.
Yep, the kid I babysit had the same thing in his class, so he was like, oh, they destroyed everything, but they gave me a coin, and he's like, dude, dead serious. He's like, they're like the size of your thumb. He's like, I'm gonna catch one. Like, okay.
Oh, it was fabulous. I even took like an expo marker and like made little footprints going into some of the traps. And I have this picture of one of my kids like staring at his trap like...
That's so great.
It was fabulous, like dead serious. Believe in leprechauns.
Did you send that to their parent?
I did, and like because leprechauns only come out on St. Patrick's Day, they were like spending their entire recess trying to catch leprechauns. It was fabulous. My kids were like, "We're gonna do this again next year." I was like, "I don't know. I don't know if I'm your teacher next year." Welcome back.
They will make their next teacher.
Oh, yeah, they're like, we will make leprechaun traps. We will catch the leprechauns. Welcome back.
We had Chewbacca do a celebrity...
We had a brief intermission.
That's okay.
All right.
Back to parakeets.
Yes, back to parakeets. Feathers the color.
She was distracted by two parakeets, feathers the color of a rainforest, who flooded up with glasses of celery cucumber juice and pistachio muffins. On the illuminated tree trunk above her head, an orchestra of well-dressed lizards struck up a waltz on violins and flutes, accompanied by a chorus of caroling green frogs.
Did you avoid Baroque on purpose?
Yep.
Okay.
For the first time in weeks, I was like, I'm not even gonna try. We're just gonna go past that. Agatha managed to smile. She inhaled the sweet, nutty muffin in one bite and washed it down with the tart green juice. In the harness next to her, Sophie sniffed and poked at her muffin. Are you going to eat? Agatha said. Sophie shoveled it at her, mumbling something about butter and the devil's work. It's easy to get it home, she said, watching Agatha scarf it. All we have to do is ride this line to the opposite direction. And Agatha had stopped chewing. Slowly, Sophie followed her friend's eyes to her own punctured palms, to the raw marks around her wrists left by the elder's reins, to the scarlet letters fading on her chest. We can't go home, can we? Sophie breathed. Even if we prove the elders lied, the schoolmaster will still hunt you, said Agatha miserably. He can't be alive. We saw him die, Aggie. Sophie looked up at her friend. Didn't we?
Twin.
Agatha didn't have an answer. How did we lose it, Aggie? Sophie said, looking so confused. How do we lose our happy ending? Agatha knew this was the time to finish what she had started at the Hollow, but gazing into Sophie's big doe eyes, she couldn't bear to break her heart. Somehow there had to be a way to fix this without her friend ever knowing what she'd wished for. Her wish was just a mistake she'd never have to face. There has to be a way to get our ending back, Agatha said, determined. We need to seal the gates. But Sophie was staring past her, head cocked. Agatha turned around. The flower ground was empty behind them. All the passengers had disappeared. Aggie, Sophie wheezed, squinting in the distant mist. Agatha saw it too, red hoods swinging across the tracks straight for their train. Both girls tore at their harnesses, but the vines yanked them tighter. Agatha tried to make her finger glow, but it wouldn't light. Aggie, they're coming, Sophie yelled, seeing the hoods leap into the red line 2 tracks above. Pull in your vine, Agatha shouted, for that's how she'd seen the others get off the ride. But no matter how hard she or Sophie tugged, the track just whisked them along. Agatha fumbled for Radley's dagger and cut herself free, eyeing the red hoods getting closer. Stay here, she screamed at Sophie, measuring the distance to her friend's vine, dangling from her strap. Agatha winced at the giant fly trap snapping out of the bottomless pastel pit below. With a cry, she kicked and swung herself into the tunnel wind for her friend. Agatha's hands missed the strap and crashed into Sophie, grabbing her like a tree. The green tree trunk turned bright orange and started flashing violation. A crabby voice boomed over the speaker. No swinging. Violation. No swinging. Violation. A flock of green parakeets flew in. Maybe we'll find Buddy 3.0 in there. and started pecking at Agatha's dress, trying to pull it off. She dropped her knife. What the? Get off her, Sophie shrieked, slapping the birds away. Violation, the crabby voice blared. No slapping. Violation. No slapping. The lizards and frogs atop their tracks skittered down the green...
Speaking of frogs.
The lizards and frogs atop their tracks skittered down the green flowered vines and started tugging at Sophie's dress. Aghast, Sophie smacked them, sending a lizard and the flowers flying. Agatha inhaled the pollen and sneezed. Violation. No sneezing. Violation. Birds, lizards, and frogs from their lines descended to denude both girls in punishment. We need to get off, Agatha cried. I know! I only have 2 buttons left, Sophie squealed, slapping the frog away. We need to get off now! Agatha pointed to the red hoods swinging onto their track. Follow me, she cried as Sophie, shaking off the rainbow lizards, and swung to the next strap. She glanced back to see Sophie still grappling a canary on her collar. Shoo! This is handmade! Now! Agatha roared. Sophie grasped and swung for the next vine. She missed and plunged screaming towards the gnashing fly trap. Agatha blanched in horror. Sophie's belly flopped into the blue hibiscus line, below, running parallel to the at high speed. Hands and legs wrapped around the glowing trunk. She looked up at Agatha, who heaved with relief. Aggie, watch out! She yelled. Agatha wheeled to a hood on her vine. He grabbed her throat. Hearing Agatha's choked gurgles above her, Sophie tried to stand on her trunk. Then she saw a thorn tunnel ahead, about to decapitate her and plaster her down just as the train whooshed through. Suddenly, she heard a twinkly sound and swerved her head down the tunnel to see the glowing blue butterfly hovering in place above the track. Help us, Sophie begged. The butterfly beat its wings and whizzed forward. As her train came out of the tunnel, Sophie scooted down the tree trunk to follow it. Shadows of the hood strangling Agatha, darkening the track ahead. Frantic, Sophie tried to keep up with the butterfly, but 2 hoods landed in front of her, bows and arrows in hand. Just as they aimed, she looked back with terror and saw the hood about to snap Agatha's neck. The butterfly dove and yanked the vine under Sophie's hand. In an instant, the vine snared Sophie's wrist, ripped her off the track, and lassoed Agatha's hand on the way up. The hoods whirled in shock, spewing their knives and arrows at him, but the vine coiled like a whip and launched both girls upward into a blue wind wheel of light. The rush of air sucked them towards the light portal in a storm of loose petals, pulling up and up and up, and into a lush field. Kneeling in a ball of tall red and yellow lilies, Agatha and Sophie heaved for breath, faces scratched, petals in hair, and dresses barely still on. Both looked down at the dirt-plunged hole they just sprouted from, broiled with arrows from below. Where are we? Sophie said, searching for the blue butterfly. Agatha shook her head. I don't... Then she saw a red lily and a yellow lily whispering to each other, giving each other strange looks. She'd seen flowers talking to each other before, she thought, in a field just like this, until they'd tugged her by the wrist and yanked her up to... Agatha lurched to her feet. The school of goods soared above them, shimmering in red-orange sunrise over the crystal-clear side of Halfway Bay. Its 4 glass towers, once divided between pink and blue, were now only blue, with flags bearing butterflies of the same color, billowing from sharp minarets. We're back, Sophie gasped. Agatha went white as snow. Back to the one place where she tried to forget, back to the one place that could ruin everything. Ahead, the closed doors to Good Castle lay atop the hill. Golden spiked gates barred the lane up the great lawn, mirrored words arching over them. The School for Girl Education and Enlightenment. Agatha closed and reopened her blurry eyes, for she had seen wrong. It still said girl? Huh? Sophie stood beside her. That's strange.
What do you mean, still said girl?
Like, they looked and then they blinked. Like,
oh,
yeah.
got it. Okay.
And
Fixed the vision.
it still said girl. Yeah.
So after you graduate good and evil, then you go to a gender bias course. Got it.
Well, it said it was still the School of Good and Evil, but now it's only girls.
Gotcha.
Well, good
Because
and
remember,
girl.
it's a world without princes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good and girl aren't so far apart, Agatha said. Maybe one of the nymphs got confused. But then she saw that Sophie was looking at. At the halfway point across the bay, Good's lake shimmered into Evil's moat. Only the moat wasn't black like it used to be. It was rusted red, the color of the cesspool in the woods, and guarded by the spiny white crocodiles she'd seen eating the female deer. At least 20 of them lurking in the sledge. Black.
They left the male alone because it was a male going into the boy's side.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that poor female deer.
Black shark teeth glinting. Slowly, Agatha looked up at the School for Evil looming above the moat. 3 blood-red towers, jagged with spikes, flanked by a smooth silver tower, twice as tall as the others. Atop the 4 towers, black flags crackled in the fog, emblazoned with scarlet snakes. There used to be 3 evil towers, Sophie said, squinting, not 4. Voices rose above the bay, and the 2 girls ducked into the lilies. Out of the woods stormed men in black through Evil's castle gates. They were wearing red leather hoods. The schoolmaster's men, Sophie cried as they faded into the fog. Agatha whitened. But that means... She whirled back to the bay. It's gone, Agatha. It's gone, breathed Agatha. For the schoolmaster's sky-high silver tower, once guarding the halfway point between the moat and the lake, had simply disappeared. No, it's not, Sophie said, still eyeing the School for Evil. Now Agatha saw that there were 4 towers there instead of 3. The schoolmaster's tower had moved to Evil. He's alive, Agatha cried, gaping at the silver spire. But how? Sophie pointed. Look. In the tower's single window, veiled by fog, a shadow stared down at them. All they could see of his face was a gleaming silver mask. It's him, Sophie hissed. He's leading Evil. Agatha, Sophie. The girls swiveled from the lilies to see Professor Debbie running from the Good Castle in her green, high-necked gown. Come quickly. As the 2 girls hurried behind her through the Good's golden gates, Agatha glanced back at the schoolmaster's tower and the masked shadow in the window. All they had to do was kill him again, and their mistake would be hidden forever. They'd go home safe, her promise to Stefan kept, and Sophie would never know what she had wished for. Looking up at the shadow lording over Evil, Agatha waited for her heart to rage with purpose, to propel her into battle, but instead her heart did something else. It fluttered.
It's Tedros.
Yeah.
The way a princess's did in the books when she saw her prince.
She saw him.
It's Tedros.
Gosh.
Oh, what if Tedros went dark because she chose Sophie and left
Yes.
her?
Yes.
I wonder how much time has technically passed in their world then, because I don't think he'd go that dark in like 9 months. Well, I guess it's a year.
Yeah.
A lot can happen.
Maybe
in a
he
year.
took over as the new schoolmaster.
Mm-hmm.
And
Just letting all his rage out, basically.
No.
Yeah. Well, that's our hypothesis now.
Agatha and Tedros are meant to. Maybe she just needs to heal his broken heart. She didn't break his heart to...
A true love's kiss.
Yes. There you go.
Bring him back
Needs
out.
to come out of the fog.
Mm-hmm.
What you doing being evil over there?
Well, let us. What do you guys think? Let us know below. We love reading your comments and engaging with us in our conversation with the books here. And let us know what you think might happen next.
Do you think that Tedros is the one in the tower? Do you have a different prediction?
She can't love someone else. He was already the guy in her dreams.
Yeah.
So, like...
Suddenly she starts loving the schoolmaster.
This isn't a Sarah Maas film where they waited, where the first prince in book 1's not the real one.
Oh, Tamlin. Spoilers.
Yep.
Anyway.
All right, guys.
Well, we'll see you next time. Thanks for hanging in with us. It was a long chapter. We do appreciate it. And hopefully you enjoyed it just as much as we did.
Talk about all this crazy, though. I mean, the
Yeah.
first book didn't start this fast. It's like all of a sudden just like...
Well, I think we're in
Bam.
momentum now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but until then, we see you guys next time.
Bye. My foot's crossed.